Joining Dr. Now's weight loss program takes courage, but staying in the program is even harder. For every patient who crossed the finish line, there were others who walked out and quit filming mid-journey. Some were too daunted by the physical challenge, others couldn't address the psychological addiction, and some just stubbornly thought they knew better than the doctor trying to save their life. Here's what happened with every single patient who quit My 600-Pound Life mid-filming. Deshaun Davis. Deshaun was 28 years old, living in Omaha, Nebraska, and hadn't left his mother's apartment in 3 years.
And I think he's been in the kitchen twice. So if meals are not prepared by his sister or myself and brought to him, he does not move.
Getting to that point wasn't just about the weight. His mother's drug addiction, his father's time in prison, abuse from a stepfather, and years of bullying had already left him guarded. Then as a teenager, Deshaun was shot trying to shield his mother during a family outing. The bullet only grazed his hand, but the fear that followed sealed him indoors for good. Food became the one thing he felt he had control over. And by the time he reached out to Dr. Now, Deshaun weighed over 700 pounds.
I really do want to change. It's just hard. But my mom's telling me not to give up. That's my real best friend, so.
His first appointment was a video call, and Dr. Now put him on a 1,200-calorie low-carb diet. A dietitian visited his home to walk through exactly what he'd be eating and teach him how to adhere to his new diet. But after a few months, the diet had fallen apart completely.
I talked to your nurse, and it sounds like you have a lot of enablers around getting you what you want. And if they don't, then you throw a fit and manipulate them to give you what you want. We gave you instructions for the diet and exercise, and you didn't follow the diet. Did you do the exercises?
No.
How much you can do and what?
I don't know.
Deshaun stopped meeting with his physical therapist, stopped following his meal plan, and told the cameras he'd basically given up. Frustrated, Dr. Now gave him one more shot on the condition that he starts seeing psychologist Dr. Matthew Paradise. That therapy actually seemed to work for a while. Under Dr. Paradise's guidance, Deshaun began leaving his bedroom daily, sitting out on the porch, and eating meals with his family instead of alone. It looked like real progress. But when a medical van arrived to bring him in for an official weigh-in, Deshaun refused to go.
I'm not going. I don't even have my shoes right now.
We could get your shoes. I can help you with that if you want.
My nurse already getting them for me. I'm just waiting on her. They're supposed to be coming in today.
Well, why don't you go to this appointment, figure out your weight, and then you can start working on getting better, man.
I don't know. Just don't want to go.
He later fired Kavona, the caregiver Dr. Now had assigned to help him eat healthier. By month 10, Deshaun had stopped responding to Dr. Now, his therapist, his physical therapist, and his nutritionist. He'd blocked every one of their numbers. Since then, Deshaun has kept an unusually low profile. His Facebook page is mostly memes, with the same old profile picture and no sign of a weight loss journey. Angela Gutierrez. Angela came to Dr. Now for her second shot at life. In her 20s, Angela had got gastric bypass surgery, lost 100 pounds, and then gained it all back. By the time she came to Dr. Now's clinic at 608 pounds in 2019, life had already taken her through custody loss, a suicide attempt, depression, and a food addiction she couldn't shake. Making the trip to Dr. Now proved to be a challenge from the beginning. Since her son Chris couldn't take time off work to accompany her, Angela brought her ex-boyfriend Eric along for the 1,100-mile trip instead. She complained through nearly all of it, but by the time she reached Dr. Now's office, she seemed willing to commit to the program.
But this is my last chance. If I die tomorrow, I die trying, because I will do what Dr. Now says. And I will go home, I will lose the weight, I'll look for a place to live, come back, move here, and get my life back together.
That willingness didn't last long. Angela couldn't help the lack of structure and missed every follow-up appointment since then.
So we have a bit of an issue again.
Because you missed your appointment again, saying you were sick, but turned out you weren't. So what is your excuse this time?
I just had some family things going on, and I haven't been able to come out to Texas. But I do plan on being out there to hopefully get an apartment.
Angela came up with every excuse to avoid going back to see Dr. Now. Eventually, she dropped out of the program within 8 months.
I've not seen Dr. Now for 6 months. I had to choose to put Texas on hold. I do want to go see Dr. Now. I'm not trying to not go see him. But right now, to stay on Dr. Now's program, it's too much.
Sadly, in March 2023, 4 years after her journey on My 600-Pound Life ended, Angela passed away at age 49. Her obituary didn't mention a cause of death, but her last Facebook post, posted just days before she died, hinted at respiratory failure. Bethany Stout. In 2019, Bethany was over 607 pounds and completely dependent on her kids. Seemingly run-of-the-mill for My 600-Pound Life, but there was a twist. She was a former addiction counselor with a master's degree in counseling psychology. If anyone should have known how to fight this battle, it was her. And initially, she was winning the battle. Bethany committed to Dr. Now's program, got her surgery, and dropped to 496 pounds in 8 months. But that progress didn't hold. 4 months after the procedure, her weight started climbing back up over 500 pounds, and Dr. Now was not having it.
What you're saying is what doesn't make sense. Let me explain something to you. You started out hoping in a magic fix, and then you applied yourself and took control for a few months until you got weight loss surgery, and then your emotional issues came to the surface. And dealing with that is really hard stuff. And now you're hoping in a magic fix for that. And until you take your psychotherapy seriously and do what you need with that, this trend and direction you headed is going to continue. And if that happens, you're not going to make it. So you have a very important choice to make. Whether you want to turn your life around or make excuses and end up eating yourself to death. You got it?
That confrontation seemed to be the tipping point. A month later, Bethany quit the program entirely, insisting the surgery hadn't worked the way she'd expected.
I desperately want to succeed and to lose the weight and get my life back. But the weight loss surgery didn't end up working like I needed and expected it. So in the end, as much as I want to change, if I'm not getting the tools I need to do that, then I don't see the point.
She walked away convinced she could finish the job on her own back in Oklahoma. And surprisingly, she actually did. By 2020, Bethany was posting photos that looked nothing like the woman on the show. One caption read, "Ready for work in my size 18 jeans, down from size 38." Bethany went on to launch a health and wellness page called Bariatric Mama, sharing what she'd learned about surgery recovery with others in the same fight, though the page has since gone quiet. By 2020, she announced she was close to a follow-up surgery and began selling crochet pieces to help cover the cost. Whether that surgery ever happened isn't clear. That same year, she also returned to counseling work and got through an appendicitis scare. Bethany's last social media update was in 2022. She went completely silent after that. Unlike Bethany's socials, this channel doesn't believe in going silent. I drop new videos every week, sometimes twice a week for members. So do us both a favor and subscribe. Hit that thumbs up and hype this video before I move on to the next patient. Shanae Murray. Of all the patients who quit Dr. Now's program, few left on worse terms than Shanae. She came in weighing more than 650 pounds, and what followed was 8 months of one of the most chaotic patient journeys the show has ever documented. The chaos started early. At her second appointment, more than 2 months after her first, Shanae had gained weight. And her first excuse didn't hold up for long.
28-pound weight gain. So you want to explain to me how this happened?
I have a lot of fluid in my legs.
Can you try something else? Because I heard that one 1,000 times.
And the pattern of excuses only got worse from there. By month 4, Shanae skipped her scheduled appointment entirely and admitted herself to the hospital instead, claiming severe stomach pain. Tests found nothing life-threatening, but they did find something else.
So we ran some tests on her and found nothing life-threatening. Shanae is likely making most of this up. But we did discover that she started to take water pill as diuretic to try and lose weight, but she's taking 5 times the safe amount to try and force a lot of weight loss.
Despite the attempt to force her weight down, it backfired completely. When Dr. Now checked her weight, she'd climbed back to over 700 pounds. And to make it worse, the hospital staff had already caught her eating burgers and pizza that Freddie had snuck in.
Shanae, the lying need to stop now. Okay, Shanae, here's the situation.
Okay.
For 4 months, I have seen you from day one. You haven't lost any weight. Plus, the hospital staff not only seen you eating pizza, but burgers, and then you're smart enough not to throw it your own trash, throw it in somebody else's trash.
That argument turned out to be the turning point. On a controlled diet, she lost 91 pounds in just 30 days. So Dr. Now sent her home with a new weight loss target, and she'd be cleared for surgery. But the progress didn't last. Over the months that followed, she skipped therapy, missed her next weigh-in, made excuses, and gained weight. Eventually, Shanae decided to break ties with the program, and even go so far as to block Dr. Now's calls.
Once again, Shanae has missed her appointment. But this time, she's not even answering her phone or responding to us. So it is unfortunate.
Since then, Shanae launched a GoFundMe to cover the cost of weight loss surgery on her own terms. It only raised $300. The page has since been taken down, and whether she ever got the surgery remains unknown. But it is clear from her posts that Shanae barely lost any weight after her episode aired. Tanisha Cleveland. Tanisha had just watched her mother die from obesity and wasn't willing to follow the same path. At 32 years old and 588 pounds, Tanisha's fear was real enough to get her through the door and into Dr. Now's office. She lost 11 pounds in her first month. Small, but a start. Then her husband Tony filed for divorce. Tanisha fell apart and quit the program entirely.
So I haven't been able to make time for any sort of diet or weight loss right now. How can I worry about my weight when I have the weight of my whole house on me?
She came back a few months later, but the damage had already been done. She regained all the weight she lost, missed her target weight 2 months running, and quit a second time. This time she went silent on Dr. Now for over 4 months, leaning on food again to cope. It took the show's producer showing up at her front door to get her back into the program.
She won't answer any phone calls or any texts, so. Hi, how are you?
Who the hell is that knocking on my windows and my doors like that?
It's Sarah, how are you? Are you not feeling well today?
It's a lot of things that's going on. At the end of the day, I can still do the weight loss without Dr. Now or any other weight loss doctor, period. Point blank. I don't need this. This does not benefit me.
5 months later, Tanisha eventually came back. When she stepped on the scale, she had gained 41 pounds, now weighing in at 602. Dr. Now agreed to give her one more chance, on the condition that she start seeing a therapist. With the help of therapy, Tanisha was able to start losing weight again and was approved for weight loss surgery. After the procedure, she stayed committed and lost 119 pounds total by the time her journey on My 600-Pound Life was coming to an end. Lenitra Reed. Len was 604 pounds at 40 years old, living in Mississippi and working to support her young daughter. Her health was already limiting how present and active she could be as a mother.
I'm the sole provider for her. She has asthma, and I have to give her breathing treatments throughout today. And I give her anything I can, because she's my heart.
Len met Dr. Now in April 2020, but balancing the program alongside family responsibilities proved difficult. Over the months that followed, she lost some weight, but not enough to qualify for surgery. As life pressures continued to pull at her time and energy, she eventually stepped away from the program to focus on caring for her young daughter, who was managing asthma.
It feels like it's been one thing after another, where each new thing is just worse. So I thought about it and I prayed on it. And today I'm talking to Dr. Now, and I'm telling him that my journey is going on hold and that I'm no longer going to be continuing with his program.
Since then, Len has remained active on Facebook, though her focus has shifted away from weight loss and toward family life. Much of her recent content centers on her daughter, including proudly sharing moments from her participation in children's pageants. Away from the spotlight, Len has also completed a certified nursing assistant program, marking a significant personal milestone. Based on her recent photos, there's no significant difference in her weight as we saw on the show. Cindy Vela. Cindy was 45 years old and around 615 pounds. Her mobility was non-existent. Her independence was gone. And her friend Sandy had become the one keeping her alive. In 2020, Sandy finally pushed Cindy to reach out to Dr. Now, hoping professional help could pull her back from the edge. But from the beginning, Cindy struggled with Dr. Now's structure. She missed her first appointment, forcing him to make a rare visit to Cindy's home in Portland, Texas.
Hello, Dr. Now.
Hi, Sandy.
Come on in. Cindy, Dr. Now is here.
Hi, Cindy. How are you today?
Doing okay?
So I see you're in a big chair.
Yes.
Are you comfortable with it?
No.
So why you didn't comply with the diet and do better to get yourself in better shape?
I don't know.
Do you realize that you're not gonna live too much longer like this?
Yes.
Being bedridden?
Even then, the resistance continued. She missed more appointments, avoided accountability, and pushed back against the doctor's orders every step of the way. To the surprise of no one, she quit the program entirely.
Cindy went back home about a month and a half ago and decided she doesn't need any more help to lose weight and get healthy. The reality was she didn't want to work to change what she needed, so she quit when she didn't get a magic solution for her problem.
But a few months later, severe stomach pain forced her to reach back out to Dr. Now, this time seemingly ready to accept the help she had once rejected. She was admitted to the hospital and placed on the controlled diet she'd refused before. After her release, Cindy stayed committed to the program, and in 2021 she finally qualified for weight loss surgery. By the end of the year, she weighed 373 pounds, a major accomplishment. Since then, Cindy has stepped back from the public eye. She posted a selfie in 2022, but hasn't shared full body updates or given followers much insight into her current weight or life. Jean Covey. Jean's episode stood out for a few reasons. The sheer filth of the house, packed with clutter and roaming dogs, made it one of the most unsanitary homes Dr. Now's team had ever walked into. She was almost 40 years old, weighed over 700 pounds, and lived in that house with her parents. She couldn't fit in the bathroom, so her sick mother had to help her bathe with just a bowl and a washcloth. When she and her mother finally sat down with Dr. Now, he made one thing clear from the start.
I think getting the weight loss surgery, I think that would help.
What is the problem that you think the solution is weight loss surgery?
Because I'm too heavy and I can't do it without it.
Okay, so you decided already what the solution is for your problem. But I got news for you. That solution is not the solution for your problem. Your problem is your eating disorder, and surgery does not correct the eating disorder.
Jean expected to receive weight loss surgery, hoping it would be a quick fix. But her real problem wasn't her weight. It was her relationship with food. And surgery wasn't going to fix that on its own. If she wanted a different life, the psychological work had to come first. But 6 months into her weight loss journey, everything fell apart at once. Her mother was hospitalized for emergency surgery. And while the two of them were stuck in Houston, they realized they hadn't heard from Jean's father in days.
It looked like he just went to sleep and just didn't wake up.
A welfare check found he'd died in his sleep. Grief-stricken and out of options, Jean quit the program. She'd lost only 20 pounds. But 4 months later, she came back with renewed determination. She eventually lost enough weight to be approved for surgery. But after the procedure, as she was healing, she decided yet again to quit seeing Dr. Now and manage her weight loss journey on her own. In August 2020, Jean posted on Facebook that she had lost over 230 pounds. But her last photo from February 2023 didn't show much visible change from that update. In fact, Jean sued the production company behind My 600 Pound Life, seeking $1 million in damages for alleged negligence during filming. And she wasn't the only one who felt the show let them down. Several patients also went after the production company in court. We covered every single one of those cases in detail, who sued, what they claimed, and what actually happened in the end. Grab a snack and watch this one next.